Only the Best is a short story I'd like to share with you. At 37, attractive Nicki Thorson was asleep on the bed in her hotel room. Coming from a wealthy family, she was a snob and well-dressed in a pantsuit. Then she abruptly sat up from her short nap because of continuing nightmares of green reptiles. Breathing hard, she held her chest and tried to calm herself. And beside her, on the nightstand, there was a clock, distilled water, and a half-eaten energy bar, which she grabbed and ate up because she had to be downstairs shortly. In the conference room, Nicki had her afternoon stress workshop of about 35 people doing some deep breathing exercises. As a successful woman, she was a professional speaker and a trainer and coach in the wellness industry. And in front of her class, she was looking around at everyone, making sure their eyes were closed. And when she smiled, she had a mouthful of teeth. That's it. Relax. Inhale deeply, slowly, and then exhale very slowly. And smiling, Nicki exhaled and rubbed her tongue on her teeth. All right, just take a deep breath and we'll take a short break. Break? I don't need a break, a woman sighed, relaxed. Me either. A man felt very relaxed. Smiling, Nicki stepped forward among her audience. It was a serene atmosphere, and everybody was very relaxed and calm. Some of them started chatting. Everyone needs this workshop. Your tips and exercises are great. An older woman smiled at Nicki as she mingled among her audience. Conceded she didn't like to do it, but she thought she had to. She thought she was better than everyone. Everyone's lives are changing with everyone moving to the space stations. A man took a big, deep breath. Yeah, too much stress here, another man agreed. The people milled around conversing and also were drinking bottled water. I just took my physical and got a spot on the station. I did fine, a woman commented. My brother didn't. He didn't pass. He's got diabetes and cancer. Only people in good health get to go first. The woman got upset easily. Yeah, I heard that too, a man turned to her. My mom's in a wheelchair, another one said. She can't go either. Hearing that confused Nicki. She was blinking and rubbing her left arm. There was a rash forming on her arm. She stepped over to them. I don't understand. That's discrimination. What are you saying? A man nodded, agreeing with her. Anyone with a disability is pushed back. Can't go now. He shrugged, and Nicki just shook her head. I don't believe that. Well, I heard it on the news. A woman looked at Nicki. From Thorson Industries Broadcasting Network. They all turned to Nicki because she was part of the family. They were staring at her, and Nicki didn't want to believe it. So after her workshop, she quickly went out the door, colliding with a woman, making her drop her drink. And Nicki had her cell phone to her ear. Yes, get the plane ready. I'm on my way. The view from the large picture window provided a view of the city below. The office was large and plush, and it had a separate seating area near a large desk. The walls were covered with television monitors, and several monitors gave different views of buildings of the space stations. Other monitors had news and weather on them. Ray and Matthew Thorson were brothers. Proud and pompous at 60, Ray had salt and pepper wavy hair and had several facelifts. He knew his power and he loved to use it. And Ray lost his wife to cancer, which put up barriers with everyone. His older brother, Matt, was more laid back and easygoing, but it was an act that he put on, because Matt was bitter about losing his wife and 2 sons in a plane crash because of rebels who planted a bomb. Anger and revenge were usually on his mind, and he was always pouting. He also hid his loneliness. Matt and Ray stood up and showed a man to a door who was leaving. Disappointed, his shoulders were down. And then Matt lightly clutched his shoulder. We have everything under control, Gerard. They watched him walk out. And then he was holding the door open as Nicki came in. Dad, Nicki smiled at him. Uncle Matt. She stared at them, seeing green auras around them. Blinking, she shook her head, couldn't believe what she saw. The auras faded into them, showing green, scaly skin. And then quickly she wiped her face and hands, thinking she was seeing things. Nicki, what a surprise! Ray and Nicki hugged. How long has it been? He kissed her. 3 months, I think. And then Nicki hugged Matt. He held her around the waist, admiring her beauty and slender figure, and Ray looked at Nicki up and down. She reminded Ray so much of his wife. His eyes lighted up. "It's great to see you." And Matt escorted her to the seating area. He wanted to sit next to her. He thought Nicki was gorgeous, but Ray sat down quickly next to his daughter. Looking around in awe, Nicki noticed all the TV monitors on the walls and the long line of computers in the room that were back in an indented area. "Would you like something to drink?" Ray asked her. Just green tea." Collecting her thoughts, she rubbed her tongue on her teeth. "Hot as usual?" She started to scratch her arm. "Just the way you like it," Matt commented, picking up the phone on the coffee table. "Sally, pot of green tea, hot." "What brings you up here?" Ray realized how much he missed her. With no family left, Matt was jealous of the relationship, and it made him feel lonely. "Oh, I don't know." Looking down, Nicki was shrugging, not sure of how to proceed. "Watching the space race, second place, not bad." "Not for long." Ray smiled and put his arm around her. "We haven't told the public everything. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes," Matt stated. "The public doesn't need to know everything," Ray added. "What?" Blinking, Nicki was cautious about the remarks. Was something else going on? Were her suspicions right? She could feel they were holding something back. "You mean you're number one?" "We," Matt smiled at her, and Ray clutched Nicki. "God, I missed you." He wanted to change the subject. "What have you been up to?" "Work." "Your metaphysics?" Matt smiled at her. She's smiling, she nodded. "You still going with that newspaper editor?" Ray wondered. "What's his name?" "Jeff Wagner," she nodded. "I heard something and wanted to know if it's true or not." Ray and Matt waited for her to continue. "People have to pass physicals to get on the space stations?" A woman came in with a tray of tea and cups, and everything went quiet. She sat the tray down and left. Glancing around the room, Nicki's eyes settled on one monitor. She thought she recognized Jeff's meeting room from above. He was managing editor of a large newspaper. Then quickly the monitor screen showed a view of Jeff's office from a picture on his back wall. She saw a framed picture of herself and Jeff sitting on his desk, and shaking her head and blinking, Nicki looked around. She saw the TV screens showing television, newspapers, and internet media offices, and Matt poured the tea for everyone. "Why not?" Ray answered her questions, looking her in the eyes. "We want the best." Then they heard a beep from one of the computers. He got up and went over to the computer and monitor. He pressed a button. The monitor showed a young man. "Ray, this is Derek on Station 1. The 25-year-old looked over Ray's shoulder and saw Nicki coming closer. Then Matt. "Is that Nicki?" Derek smiled wildly. "Yes," sipping her tea. Nicki came closer. "Do I know you?" "You used to babysit me." And then she studied him carefully. "Derek?" She recognized the strapping young man she used to babysit 15 years ago. He had a broad smile. "I had a crush on you, pretty as ever." And then Nicki loved the praise and expected it. "How are you?" "Fine. My wife and I just had our first baby." "It's great up here. My whole family except my dad." "Well, your father has Alzheimer's, doesn't he?" she inquired. "Yeah." Derek's voice lowered in disappointment. "Where is he?" Nicki wondered what was going on. "What did you call for, Derek?" Ray stopped him from saying any more. And then Derek stiffened up and sat up straight for his bosses. "There's a hurricane starting in the Atlantic. Did you want to move it?" "We can do that later," Matt commented, not wanting to say too much in front of Nicki. "But they can use the rain in the southwest with the drought there," Derek commented. Matt went over to another computer and flicked some switches. The monitor above it displayed the Atlantic Ocean, seeing the hurricane swirl. He picked up a phone. "Mike?" "Yes." "Hold this. Do not broadcast until I tell you." He tried to whisper, but Nicki listened very intently. "We need to set up that news story. Just get some actors from Phoenix for the 6 o'clock news." "No, do not put the rescue story on yet. I'll call you later." He hung up. That really confused Nicki, and her eyes were rolling around in alarm and worry. "What the hell's going on here?" She gulped her tea, demanding, looking at Ray and Matt for an explanation. "Call you later, Derek." Ray turned off the monitor. It's like you're manipulating everything. You can manipulate the weather? And Matt shrugged. It's 2015. Yes, Nicki, we can. He made light of it. And you're manufacturing news? Nicki couldn't believe what she saw and heard. And then Ray steered her back over to the sofa. It's okay. We know what we're doing. We know what's best for the world, to survive. We need the best in space, or we won't make it. So the sick and disabled stay here? That's discrimination. Dad, how can you do this? She turned to him, her blue eyes narrowed in sympathy. We've all agreed, he replied. Who's we? Nicki's pupils grew in fear. She was rubbing her arm and started to scratch it because it was itching. She couldn't hide her blinking and shaking. Well, all of us. Benex, Johnson, Sentex. It's good for the world, Matt stated with pride. Governments have fallen. It's natural we take over. We're leaders. And then Ray forced Nicki back over to sit down. Nicki, his voice was calm. You're a businesswoman. You work with various clients. Do you give them your best? She nodded yes. And what do you expect from yourself? The best, she quietly gulped. What do you expect from your clients? The best, she had to admit. It made her stop and think about her clients, especially an older lady she was working with, who was left behind by her family. There will be a whole new breed, the human race in space that can rival any species we meet. The master race? She glared up at Ray and Matt. She couldn't believe her father and uncle turned into dictators. You can understand that, can't you? Ray watched her, noticing how conflicted she appeared. You're going to inherit all this, Nicki. Matt stepped closer. An empire in telecommunications, media, space technology that we've developed. And my holodeck, he smiled proudly and broadly. And you're perfect, a perfect specimen, Nicki. Ray had his arm around her. Healthy, beautiful, bright, smiling, he wiped her hair back. Shaking her head, Nicki stood up, backing away. She kept rubbing her teeth on her tongue and couldn't believe what they were doing. And Jeff was right about her. She didn't know what was going on around her. Blinking, she rubbed her arm and scratched a rash that she was getting. Do you still have those nightmares about green reptiles? Matt studied her carefully, with his beady little eye, deep-set brown eyes on her. With her head down, Nicki nodded. How do you make your selections, Nicki? Ray stood up looking at her. What criteria do you select to what clients you work with? Nicki didn't know what to say. Only the ones who can pay you, right? Ray continued. The best? Realizing they were right, Nicki gasped, grabbing her mouth. She was just like them and backed away. I can help you with your nightmares and who you really are. Ray reached out to her. Oh, God! Crying, she ran out. She thought she was always perfect, open-minded and fair, but she wasn't. It confused her. Should she expose them? They were the only family she had. Back in Santa Barbara, she ran to Jeff. Sitting on the sofa in his office, Jeff held Nicki in his arms and caressed her. She tried to stop crying. It's okay, it's okay. Jeff was a good-looking 40-year-old, but showing his age. Looking up, she noticed the picture of a lion on the wall behind his desk. Her eyes lighted up as she pointed at it. He looked over at it. They noticed the eye of the lion and could see a camera lens. And then standing up, she was still scratching her rash. Not in here. She didn't want to talk in his office. And puzzled, Jeff followed her out of his office and led her over to a conference room. Shaking her head, she pointed up at the lighting. And again, they noticed a small camera lens with microphone. Outside in a nearby park, Nicki told him everything. And sighing, Jeff didn't know what to say. He scratched his hair. I understand you don't want to do anything. Let's find Susan. She's part of the rebel forces. We can stop this. And he was watching her scratching her arm. Stop scratching. They both noticed a layer of green scaly skin under her own skin on her left arm where she was scratching the rash. They stared at each other, worried. She was a Thorson, but who was she really? And they had work to do. If you like this story, there are more waiting for you over at my websites. So if you're interested, come on over. There's a lot more to see. and read, and more adventures to follow. Thanks for watching.